Okay, continuing with factoring, we're on number 10. Again, I'm looking at this and I've got to determine if I have a greatest common factor. In this problem, I do have a greatest common factor. I'm going to come out in here and work. The common factor is x, so I'm going to factor out the x, and that leaves x squared plus 7x plus 10. X squared plus 7x plus 10. And this is nice. The trinomial is already set up in factored form. It has a coefficient of 1, so I can just simply ask the question. What are factors of 10 that add and give me 7? Well, that's going to be 5 and 2. So I know I'm going to be able to factor this and not have to use the quadratic formula. So here's what I have. Keeping the x, setting up my two binomials. The signs will be these same. They will both be plus plus. So I have x plus, x plus. What are factors of 10 that add and give me 7? That would be 5 and 2. Since I didn't multiply in through bottoms up, I don't have to divide out. So these are my factored form. So I'm going to set each one of these equal to 0 if you're looking for the zeros. And then you're going to solve them. I have 0. X is equal to negative 5, subtracting 5 from both sides. And x is equal to negative 2, subtracting 2 from both sides. So my final answer would be negative 2, 0, and 5. Oh, I'm sorry, that was negative 5. Writing these from least to greatest, that would be negative 5, negative 2, and 0. And that's usually the way that you're going to see it. Okay, in number 11. Move 10. Pick up 11. Again, I want to see if I have a greatest common factor. I do have a greatest common factor. My greatest common factor is x. So I'm going to take out the x, and that leaves x squared plus 8x plus 16. And I'm just going to make sure to check and see if I can factor. What are factors of 16 that add and give me 8? And that would be 4 and 4, so I know I'll be able to factor that. So I have x times, setting up my two binomials. The signs will be these same. They will both be plus plus. So I have x plus and x plus. What are factors of 16 that add and give me 8? 4 and 4. So I would set each of my factors equal to 0. And I notice that x plus 4 is written twice. So I'm not going to multiply, or I'm not going to write it and work it out twice. I just know it's going to be worked twice. So I have a 0 here, and I have x is equal to negative 4. So when I write my answer, when I write my final answer, I have negative 4 as a 0. But I look at this and go, hey, there are 2 of them. And now I know to write that it has a multiplicity of 2. Do not write it as an exponent, because if you wrote 4 squared, that would be 16. And that would not be correct. So negative 4 has a multiplicity of 2. Before, if you'll remember, we called it double root. And then 0 is also an answer, or a 0 in this problem. So if it says write this in factored form, you would leave it like this. If it says find the zeros, you would write it like this. Okay, number 12. Number 12, again we look for the greatest common factor. I do have one. The greatest common factor is x. Factor out the x, and that leaves x squared minus 7x minus 9. And I look, what are factors of 9 that subtract, I'm sorry, there's 18. I didn't take out a common factor. So here I have minus 18. So I look right here, what are factors of 18 that subtract and give me 7? And that's going to be 9 and 2. So I know that that will factor, and I don't have to complete the square or use the quadratic formula. So I move forward. Set up my two binomials. The signs will be different. So I'll have an x plus and an x minus. Again, what are factors of 18 that subtract and give me 7? That's going to be 9 and 2. 9 will get the negative because it's the bigger number. 2 will get the positive. And then I set each one of those equal to 0. So here's a 0. Didn't set that equal to 0. Solve for x, that's negative 2. Solve for x, and that's positive 9. So there are my zeros. So if I were to find those zeros, I'm going to write it from least to greatest. Negative 2, 0, and 9. Here, this is number 31 on your worksheet. If I were to look here and say I need to take out a greatest common factor would be x. So I'm going to take out the common factor of x. And that would leave 2x squared plus x minus 1. Don't forget that's going to be minus 1. Then I'm going to factor this. I'm going to bottoms up. So I have y equals x. And let's bottoms up. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So I have x squared plus x minus 2. Set up your two binomials. The signs will be different. One's a plus and one's a minus. What are factors of 2 that subtract and give me 1? That's going to be 2 and 1. 2 gets the positive, 1 gets the negative. Be very careful. If you multiply in, you have to divide out. It's really good to draw that big arrow just to remind you. So I'm going to divide out by 2, divide out by 2. So I have y equals x times, reduce 2 over 2 to 1, and then bottoms up here. So we have 2x minus 1. So if we're writing this in factored form, I would stop right here. If you're writing this in factored form, that's your answer. If you're finding the zeros, depending on your directions, set each one of these equal to 0 and solve. X is 0, subtract 1. So I have 2x is equal to 1, so x dividing by 2 is 1/2. So my zeros would be written as negative 1, 0, and 1/2. You just have to watch your directions and see what you're looking for. If you're writing it in factored form, here's your answer. And if you're looking for the zeros, there's your answer. We'll finish this up, and I have a few extra examples on the next video.